specifically entrepreneurship and big data, and how Barbados can benefit from the advantages of utilizing big data sets. So the 4 key points I'm going to talk about is how our company BITT utilizes big data, how big data can be used in entrepreneurship, the security surrounding big data, and big data in government. So starting off, BITT was an idea to bring financial inclusion to the people of the Caribbean. And in order to achieve this goal, we had to look at a new technology product that offered the capacity to allow us to clear and settle transactions. So we looked towards this technology called the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain. And it's one large, really large set of data stored in a ledger format that's very secure. And as an organization, we saw the advantages of exploring this technology and building on top of it, understanding what this technology meant and what this data storage or big set of data could mean for organizations. So over the last 4 years, we built out technology products surrounding Bitcoin's technology, Bitcoin and blockchain. But specifically, as it pertains to big data, we can now start empowering commercial banks, credit unions, financial institutions, and central banks with the capacity to offer brand new financial systems, new monetary solutions that they haven't seen before. But what's important is that the data is stored on a standard-based system. It's stored as a protocol, as a protocol-based measure. This means that all of these organizations can talk to each other and speak the same language per se when it comes to communication and when it comes to data. So we as an organization have utilized large data sets to make sense of user behavior. Now this user behavior goes down into next generational tools that you can build. Because we're sitting on a large set of data, we can start doing things like credit analysis, understanding when a person's sending or receiving consistently. We can start learning about that user. We can apply methodologies to processes around understanding the risks that user may bring to a credit scenario on a loan, for example. And using these kind of data sets, we can go further. We can look at suspicious activity. We can look at transaction monitoring and suspicious activity reporting generated automatically without a human involved against big data sets. This means that we're able to bring a level of efficiency and we're able to solve some of the problems that are happening at the central banking and the banking level when it comes to anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. So this is just one very simple example of how a financial institution like ours is able to utilize big data sets to build next generational products. So I've touched on how a company like ours can do that, but this isn't limited to us. We're not special. Big data applies to every single industry, from the postal service to the banking to health to telecoms. It really does apply everywhere, and entrepreneurs can start understanding the benefits of large data sets, of open data sets, and start building systems that understand user behavior, that understand how data is meant to work with each other, and then they themselves can build products that advance our nation, that advance the efficiencies of government, that advance the efficiencies of the economy, and further than that, bring a new level of income into the island, because we now have the capacity to build internet-based products on big data. It's not limited to Barbados. It's not limited to the Caribbean. And we as an organization have proven it by being the first in the world to use this large data set to build out a central bank digital cash system that had never been seen before until February 2016. And a little dot on the map in a little place called Barbados, with a couple of Barbadians, were able to become international rock stars because of this solution. So entrepreneurs really do stand a beneficial chance of standing on the world stage, of being different, of being cutting edge, by exploring the field of big data and how that can impact business, processes, and the flow of economies. Now, security around big data. And this is where things get a little bit tricky. So my background is I have an IT and network security, and I have an honors in the program of cryptography. But the thing is that security is one of the fundamentals when it comes to data sets. When you're talking about data, security is right there hand in hand. And one of the things that we've been seeing around the world is that large data sets become compromised and millions of users become compromised at the same time because one centralized attack was all that was needed. So security plays a fundamental and an important role when it comes to data in general. So as an organization, we implement cybersecurity policies. We have a cybersecurity officer that reviews our policies and ensures that they're up to date and that they're actually implemented. The procedures are extremely strict in how data is interfaced with, how data is stored, how we store our user data, which is extremely important. It's probably the most important store of content that we do at the organization, besides the financial content itself, because this is a person's privacy. It's their address, it's their phone numbers, it's their IDs, it's their passports. As a financial institution, we know a lot about our customers, and it's paramount that they remain protected. And so we take security extremely seriously at our organization from multiple aspects. Once again, there's multiple policies informing not just our team, but external and internal parties of how security is to be treated. Passwords, not leaving around USBs, not leaving computers unlocked, and that's the basics. But then using secure socket layers connections versus unencrypted connections, ensuring that you use the best standards and practices when it comes to security implementations. Now, for big data sets, organizations need to follow national ICT frameworks, which Barbados doesn't have one. We'll get to that as my last point. Organizations need to follow best practices in their field, ISO practices as it relates, in my field, ISO 222. It's a payment standard and practice used by majority banks around the world. But specifically understanding that big data is not scary because it can be hacked. It's that companies need to take the store, the accessibility, and the processes around interfacing with big data, whether it's hardening of the server environment or penetration testing, often penetration testing, or snooping every packet that comes into your environment, making sure you set up demilitarized zones. There's a million things you can do, but you have to do them. And once done by a responsible organization who takes security securely, customers should feel trust in that. And I say should, because there's no guarantee to computer security. And on the last point of big data in government, and this one's for our own government on both sides of the political bipartisan system, is that we need to start taking this more seriously. There's a certain level of inefficiencies in the public sector that we are not acknowledging as part of the problem of where money's being wasted. And we're not talking about sending home civil servants, we're talking about making their job more efficient. The amount of lines that we stand in on a day, in lines, if you calculate the amount of humans in Barbados that stand in a line and spread that over a year, you're talking millions of man hours wasted. Instead of being behind my computer or in the field working on my particular skill set, I'm wasting time standing in a line, whether it's for my driver's license or MTW or background check or a new ID, a passport. You get the point. We can start using big data sets, big data, open data, to allow government to connect to the public, allow government sectors to connect to each other. By the way, we only talked about human inefficiency. We haven't talked about the business to business. Government sectors talking to other government sectors. We need to start supporting these concepts, because this is where we can actually see an acceleration of income. We can see an acceleration of productivity. We don't need to send home people. We don't need to devalue our dollar. We need to focus on increasing efficiency, increasing output, making us as a people more useful, keeping me out of a line more often, keeping you out of a line more often, allowing us to communicate better, to have standards on how data is stored, standards on how data is sent. A very good example of this is Estonia. They did this with X-Roads, and it's a very beautiful government-based system that all data is connected, all government departments are connected in an open mesh network. So one of the final points that I would raise on governments in big data is not just employing it, not just utilizing legalizing it, not just other government factors starting to synchronize through these open communication channels, but legislation. We need to implement legislation that supports data protection. We need to implement legislation that goes further from the Computer Misuse Act, takes it a step further, and implements modern day processes that meet the criteria for modern day businesses. We need to look at big data as a solution and something that should be actively taken on. And there's a reason we don't see the Google.coms and the Microsofts and the MITs of this world operating here in Barbados. There's no protection for their data. There's no legislation allowing their data to be stored securely without a nefarious government being able to access it. So with that being said, support big data. It's great for entrepreneurship, it's great for ICT, it's great for government, it's great for the people. Thank you guys.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we thank Mr. Abed for his presentation.